Hello again, this is that library that can do something like this. Absolute dark magic. And now in version 0.6, Socio can also send and receive files. Here in my development testing folder, you can see a files folder where I would like to upload the files that I receive from a client. And currently it's empty. I will choose two different files, so a text file and an MP3 file, and I will go ahead and send those. You can see that they were sent. We got a response and the upload was a success. And now here they both are. So this is a text file, it has UTF-8, so everything was correct. No encoding errors. And here is a song. So that works just fine as well. And likewise, a Socio client can also ask to receive some files or download files from the server. And here I just have a very simple functionality implemented with a button. So I asked it basically for those same two files. I wanted to get these two file paths here, and we can see that I received them, and here they are as actual file objects on the browser, so browser file type objects. So here they are by name, and they have some things in there, but they don't have stuff like the type, so the MIME type, and the last modified date. It actually says it does have, but I don't believe that because they don't set it. But anyway, these things you can set yourself on the hooks. I just have a very simple bare bones implementation of it right now for demonstration purposes. So as always, let's take a look at this ancient Sanskrit. So as per usual, you instantiate the Socio client, and then there's a simple function called send files where you will specify, if this hint can stay, there we go, the files array. So the files is the browser JavaScript API files type. And then optionally, if you want some other data appended to it, like, I don't know, some metadata about the files or whatever, you can add that as well. Here I'm grabbing it out of the event because I'm grabbing this on change. But you can just simply, in Svelte, you can bind this to the actual HTML element and then grab the files off of that. Or in traditional JavaScript, just grab this thing by ID from the document, from the DOM, and grab the files property from there. So that should be just like a files array. And that will go ahead and send that off to the server. Likewise, the download files is very similar. You just get files and you specify the paths that you want where on the server file system these files actually sit. And this will return the files array back to you. And then on the server side, two very simple hooks. So the file upload hook and the file download hook. And here for your convenience, I've created some utility file system interaction functions. So to save the files to disk and read files from disk. When the file upload happens by some client, you get some information about who this client is. So if you even want to serve files to them. And then the actual files, which is my own sort of type, because I had to get a little bit creative with how to send actually binary data through a WebSocket without sending straight up binary data. Because then it wouldn't include metadata about the file, so like its file name and stuff. So instead you get this object, and just so you don't have to deal with these binaries yourself and saving them to disk and whatever, there's this convenience function here. And likewise, when you're sending data back out to the client, it needs to also respond with that same Socio files type. So to save you the trouble of constructing this object all the time, you can just specify the paths. Both of these utility functions return exactly what the hook expects to be returned, which is slightly different. The files upload just needs to know a status. File download hook actually needs to return something more complicated. It will have the result, so if that was successful or not, because sometimes you have path issues, what the error was if there was one, and then the files, which is the Socio files object already made for you. So as usual in Socio updates, there's a lot of things changed. This time the main thing was file uploads and downloads, but another thing is security has been beefed up slightly. So SQL strings are now protected against known plain text attacks. And this is done by replacing all spaces in your SQL with a random number. And it has this special format here because I need to remove those later here. And that regex needs to be reliable. Dynamic parameters don't care about this, so that should be fine as well. And so with that, to wrap up, I have a slight announcement for those of you who are actually following along the development of Socio. This might be the last or next to last update to Socio because at this point I consider it to be a finished MVP or demonstration of how this whole thing could work. So I'll most likely be devoting more time to this only if some bug fixes need to happen or more interest is shown from the JavaScript or TypeScript communities. In addition, I will be making a tutorial video of how to set up a bare bones project using Socio. So with that, thank you for your interest, and tune in next time where I rewrite the Linux kernel from scratch in JavaScript.